Welcome back for another book talk video. It's Tag Tuesday because I'm behind. I've got about a dozen tag videos that I need to make. So I'm challenging myself to catch up today with this super tag spectacular event. I'm going to try and do as many tags as I can before I just get worn out. I'm aiming for not just one tag, 2 tags, 3 tags, maybe 4 tags, 5 tags, or even 6 tags. Let's see how it goes. Also, it should go without saying that I will put information down in the description as long as it allows me to copy and paste to the word limit that YouTube allows for the questions that belong, as well as links to the people who tagged me and the original creators of the tag when I know them. Another disclaimer here, because I am rapid fire answering questions to the tags, I am not going to do specific tags to people, so these are open tags. If you are listening to this video, if you are watching me now, know that you are tagged. I have tagged you. Consider yourself tagged. If you've already done the video, of course, you don't have to do it again, though some tags you can repeat very easily. And if you don't want to do the tag, you don't have to. No pressure. But I think it's a lot of fun. Let's see what we've got. For our first tag in our spectacular event today, we've got the Booktube Favorites tag. I was tagged by Danny at Spinelli Speaks. She's so wonderful. She's full optimism. She reads interesting books. She's been doing a lot of short reviews lately, so highly recommend her channel. I've been needing to do this tag for about 6 months, but it intimidated me for some reason talking about my favorite people on Booktube. I was mentioning Pei Vio's tag over his channel Attention. He's so creative. I appreciate that. And the original tag was by A Bibliophile's Journey. Here we go. It's got 9 prompts. A booktuber you have watched the longest, that's going to be Alexa Dunn, who gives author-tube advice, writing advice, as well as occasionally talking about books. Prompt 2, a booktuber you just started watching. Oh my gosh, there have been so many people. I've been really lucky this summer because a lot of people have been doing recommendations and shout-outs on their channel. Let's see. I will highlight Katie without an E. I remember I just watched one of her videos, I think yesterday or the day before. A booktuber you became friends with. Of course, this is online during the pandemic. I haven't actually gone out and met these people in person. But so many of you who leave comments on the video, I feel like we've developed friendships. We've developed a rapport back and forth. I know specifically Rita by the Book mentioned me in her 1-year anniversary video celebrating friendship with other booktubers. I also know I've received books as gifts from Michael K. Vaughn and from Joanna, more awesome booktubers, so that makes me think they must be my friends also. They went out of their way to do that. But there are so many of you I really appreciate. Prompt 4, a booktuber you get most of your book recommendations from. I'm gonna go with Janelle from Too Fond of Books. She reads a lot of mysteries, and I love mysteries, so I've listened to a lot of her videos and gotten recommendations. Though I think Rosie Cockshut probably comes in a close second here because she recommends a lot of great books as well. And now that I think about it, I just bought a couple books that Amrita featured on her channel, and she kept talking about over and over. A lot of you give me recommendations for books, though sometimes many of you talk about stories I've already read. That's why I might not be mentioning you here. A booktuber you watch who reads the genre you do not. That would be Lady Jane Books. She reads those Sarah J. Maas books, and I just can't stand. But I think her videos are great. A booktuber whose videos make you happy. I'm gonna go with a tie between Pei Vio with his creative philosophy videos and Kit's World with his great humor that he puts in with all his tag videos and the footage he takes going out to castles and such. Those are a lot of fun. A booktuber you would like to have a buddy read with. Really everybody. I would love to, but Epic Tales and I have some sort of plan in the works. I am doing a buddy read with Book Zealots Arion coming up next month. A booktuber with under 1,000 subs that you love. I'll say Kit's World with his fun tag videos, the great humor he puts into things. He and I have the same sense of humor, which I think is rare. And then the last prompt here, a booktuber with over 1,000 subs that you love. I'll say Murphy Napier. She does a lot of creative work. She's one of those huge booktubers, but I feel like she's very grounded. She doesn't come across as being arrogant with an ego, which quite frankly, some of those bigger booktubers do. She seems very friendly and nice as she gives her book reviews and recommendations. We're moving on to the next tag. This is the Miss Marple book tag. I was tagged by Rosie Cockshut. The original tag is by James Holder. These prompts have specific references to Miss Marple books, and I'm just going to read the part that is a prompt about a book. I'm not going to read the first part, just as a matter of trying to save time. A book about or set in a small town or village. For this, I'm going to say The Guest List by Lucy Foley. This book takes place on an island. Don't pay attention to the blurb on the book. It's misleading that they say that Lucy Foley is the new Agatha Christie. This reads like an Agatha Christie book, whatever the quote was on the book. It's not. It's not at all like Agatha Christie. It's a completely different experience. Other than that, fun book. Interesting read. Next up, a book with a pivotal scene set in a library. There's a fantasy novel by Ed Greenwood called The Herald, which is one of the stories about his great wizard character, and it has combat in the biggest, most famous library in all of the Forgotten Realms setting, Candlekeep. There's magic and martial arts going on. The library is in danger as they are defending it. It's very exciting. Next up, a book in which the protagonist is trolled, harassed, subject to a rumor campaign, or falsely accused. I should have pointed out at the beginning of this video, I'm going to answer with some films or TV shows for some of these because I like films and TV shows, and you're just going to have to accept that. So sometimes that's the first thing that comes to mind. And for this one, I think one of the most famous stories of a falsely accused person is The Fugitive, a great film which was also a TV show, a book in which there is a sympathetic depiction of a Marxist or equivalent. Oh wow. I mean, doesn't say I can't answer with nonfiction, so we'll just go with the Communist Manifesto, which definitely is a Marxist work. A book in which performance plays a major role. I'm gonna say Patrick Rothfuss fantasy, The Kingkiller Chronicle, The Name of the Wind. The main character is a rogue who is able to sing and play instruments, and thus those performances are a huge deal. A book based upon or inspired by a nursery rhyme, fairy tale, myth, or other work of fiction. I don't read a lot of those popular books that are set up as retellings of fairy tales and myths and that sort of thing, but I did read Alexa Dunn's book Brightly Burning that is supposedly Jane Eyre in space. So I enjoyed that book, though I got confused at times and thought that it was supposed to be Pride and Prejudice in space, and that threw me off a little. My own bad on that one. A book in which more than two suitors pursue the main protagonist. I'm gonna go with Moll Flanders. She ends up marrying several different men in the Moll Flanders story, and it's not really legal, but she got away with a lot of stuff in that story. A book about a changing world. I'm going to say the Wheel of Time series by Robert Jordan because people are dealing with the idea of the dragon reborn and how that affects their society. There are some major armies of monsters and people marching around, and I think that would very much change people's lives. A book about or set in the Caribbean. The only book that comes to mind immediately is The Firm, which is John Grisham book, which there was a movie made from. And in that, the confidential documents, the secret files are held in a house, like a vacation house, a beach house. And I believe that was on one of the Caribbean islands. Next up is a book about artifice. For that, I assume it means artifice as in tricking people, being a trickster or con artist. So I'm going to go with the nonfiction work, The Big Con, by David W. Maurer. This book was supposedly the inspiration for several films and TV shows that had con artists in them, such as The Sting and episodes of the old TV series Maverick. Some exciting con artist gambler, heist kind of stuff. A book featuring a quest. Oh, there are so many great books with quests in them. Of course, The Lord of the Rings is one that really stands out, with Frodo having to take the ring. And then the last one for this one, a book in which the past haunts the present. Funny story for A Christmas Carol, the Charles Dickens classic. Last year around Christmas time, I made a thumbnail to do a video about that book. And I thought it was a great thumbnail. But then the way my schedule worked out, it got bumped. And I never made the video. Maybe I can just use that thumbnail. I've kept it on my computer. And make a video for it this year around Christmas time. Our next tag, our third tag for today, is the Divine Comedy tag. This is a brilliant tag, originally by Tom L.A. Books, who I like to jokingly call Tom La Books, but he's not from Louisiana, he's from Los Angeles, so Tom L.A. Books. I was tagged by, hey y'all, listen up. These tag prompts are really long and involve Virgil and Dante and all that, so I'm just going to read the part that is the prompt about the characters or books. Number 1. One of your favorite books featuring a master-pupil relationship between two of the characters. For me, that's got to be Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, Luke and Yoda. Great relationship of a master training someone. Though I remember growing up, I also enjoyed the original Karate Kid, which was a fun film with Daniel being trained by Mr. Miyagi. Number 2, a book that fired up your visual imagination more than others. Patrick Rothfuss does a great job as a writer, not just with the rhythm of his prose, but also with the imagery. So I'll go with the second book in his King Killer Chronicle, The Wise Man's Fear. Some amazing imagery in that one. Number 3, a book you read with such graphic and horrific descriptions that you will never forget them. Mike Thorne's The Darkest Hours. I've been mentioning it a lot lately because I recently read it, but that really evoked some physical responses from me. Number 4, what book that's not been adapted for cinema would you make into a movie or a TV series if you were a producer with unlimited financial means? Oh, unlimited financial means. That sounds like I could make a huge sci-fi or fantasy blockbuster with an unlimited special effects budget, in which case I'd want to make Red Rising. It was supposed to be a film already, and then maybe a mini-series, TV series kind of show. Let's do it. Let's have it as a film. And if not that, then The Shadow of the Gods by John Gwynne. That would be a lot of fun to turn into a film. The epic giant dragon. Spoilers, it's on the cover, but there is an enormous dragon in the story, and it's not just an ordinary dragon. Number 5, your favorite book by a pre-Christian philosopher or a book about ancient Greece. For that, I'm going to go with Aristotle's The Art of Rhetoric, which is kind of his lecture notes from teaching his students about persuasion and rhetoric. Aristotle is one of my all-time favorite heroes in history. Number 6, a book of any genre with a love story that you particularly liked as part of the central plot or not. Oh man, there are so many great love stories throughout literature. I'm tempted to say Casanova's diaries or journals, but my goodness, what crazy stories he would have. I'm actually going to go with the Three Musketeers. The kind of backstory of Athos and Milady de Winter that's mixed in while Milady keeps trying to seduce D'Artagnan over and over again. Fascinating. Not really a love triangle, but fascinating love story. Number 7. Name a book you loved, any genre, whose protagonist leads a group of people to follow his or her courage and ambition into an adventure. I have to say Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. Woodrow Call decides they're going to take a bunch of cattle up to Montana. He wants to be the first big rancher to get all those cattle up there, and thus they can make a lot of money. But The cowboys at his ranch don't even really question it for very long. They just go along with him on the adventure. He's such a great leader. Number 8. What is your favorite poetry book in translation? Oh, this is a tough one because I read mostly modern American poetry, so I don't need it translated. Technically, we could talk about verse, so we could talk about older works of verse, and I'll go with Beowulf as a work written in verse. Wow. All right. I feel like I've done some good work. I don't want to stop here, though. That's 3 tags. Up next, I've got the World War II book tag. I was tagged by Michael K. Vaughan. The original tag was by Anne with a Book. This is a really serious tag if you think about it too much. Some heavy emotions in here. I am not going to read the World War II associated part like with the others. I'm just going to read the book prompt part. Number 1, your favorite book which centers around war. As much as I'm tempted to say Star Wars, it's in the title. I'm going to go with the Red Rising series by Pierce Brown. Books 2 and 3 do an amazing job showing the space battles and the strategies in the war. Number 2, your most hated leader in fiction. I'm going to say the graphic novel V for Vendetta has that very Hitler-esque fascist dictator that V is slowly taking away his power and taking down his lieutenants. Number 3, a really great leader in fiction, one of the greatest leaders of all time, is Tony Stark as Iron Man. And one of the reasons he's such a great leader is because he allows people to think that other people are the leader, like Captain America Steve Rogers, when really he's calling the shots most of the time. Number 4, a horrible evil group or organization in a book. Since I just went with Marvel, I feel like I've got to say Hydra. Do not hail Hydra. Number 5, a moving fictional character with a tragic death. I feel like I'm going to be given spoilers here, so I'll go with an old classic, Shakespeare's play Hamlet, the character of Ophelia. I felt so bad for what happened to Ophelia in that play. Number 6, your favorite best friend or ally in a book? I'm going with Augustus McCrae, Gus from Lonesome Dove. The Lonesome Dove saga, really, if you go back and read the prequels as well. But in Lonesome Dove, you really get a sense of how Gus manipulates situations and people to help them. Not just for himself, but to help them out in a lot of ways, which makes him a really good friend or ally to have. Number 7, a horrible world in a book you would not want to live in. I definitely would not want to live in the world of Rebecca's, R.F. Kuang's The Poppy War series. The death and destruction with the war and that is awful. All the people addicted to opium, it's just a sad, tragic tale. And number 8, ending this one, your favorite book about World War II. I believe this is the same answer that Michael K. Vaughan gave, but Captain America's graphic novels, he gets to punch Hitler over and over, and that's great. It's a great way to think about World War II. I also considered answering with the TV series Doctor Who, which has got some interesting World War II episodes mixed into it. Alright, that was what, 4? Let's go for a 5th tag. The Bar and the Bookcase tag, with the original tag by the Bar and the Bookcase, very clever with the channel name mixed into the tag name. I was tagged by Andrew's Wizardly Reads. The prompts are various drinks. I will skip the drinks. As usual, just read the book prompt part. But they're down in the description. And they're very creative. It's very clever. Historical fiction recommendation. I assume that all of these are kind of recommendations. We'll see. I highly recommend Ken Follett's book, Pillars of the Earth. Really amazing historical fiction. Book with a strong supporting character. I'll go with World Without End, which is the sequel to The Pillars of the Earth by Ken Follett. Great characters in those stories. Very realistic people. A book set in New York. I'm going to surprise you here and say the graphic novels, the compilations for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I grew up reading those comics, and I was astounded at how in the comic book, they all looked very similar and all wore red bandanas. And then in the cartoons on TV, they gave them different color bandanas, I guess to help children distinguish which character was which. And yes, it was confusing sometimes in the comics. What is a book that scared or messed you up? Oh my goodness, a scary book. Something that messed me up. I had a good answer when I was thinking earlier. I guess since it says scared, I'll go with the Local Haunts collection, the Horror Tube anthology. I mean, not all the stories are really scary, but they're fun horror stories to read. And it's a book for charity, which I think you should support. It's always good. A book that kept you reading into the night, Margaret Penard's Remnant series. For book 3, I just couldn't put it down. I had to know what was going to happen to this family as just tragic event after tragic event bombarded them. So I didn't sleep that night. I just read right on through to the end of the book and immediately did my review afterward. So I was pretty tired after that one. Next up is a book that left you disoriented. Let's go with another short story collection for horror, and that's Mike Thorne's The Darkest Hours. You can get the expanded edition online. A book that is doing too much, and bonus point if it works anyway. I didn't know I was getting points, and now suddenly I'm concerned about who's grading or giving the points, in which case I want to say I've been working very hard at this. And I hope to get all the points possible. So a book that is doing too much. I think sometimes in epic fantasy, the authors try to do too much. I don't want to say Brandon Sanderson or any of his series because I don't want people to unsubscribe to the channel. And same thing with The Wheel of Time. I hate to say that. I feel like maybe the opposite. Robert Jordan was doing too little for some of those books as I've gotten deeper into the series. But maybe just in general, the idea that a lot of epic sci-fi and fantasy has too many characters, sometimes too many plot lines going on. Next up is a book with a love triangle. I've said it before and I'll say it again. The best love triangle in all of literature is Star Wars. And I don't care if it gets incestuous, but Luke, Han, and Leia make for such a fascinating dynamic. I've actually thought about doing a video specifically talking about that to expound on my beliefs. A book with light, chill, heartwarming vibes. You know, probably one of those cozy murder mysteries. Even though there's murder in it, I just enjoy the cozy nature, feel like that's light. So maybe the book that I read, The Bookshop, what was it called? Oh, Murder by the Book. That's the one I'm thinking of. A book that's dark, thrilling, and menacing. Bonus point if the setting matches. There are a lot of fantasy books that are really dark and thrilling and menacing. So let's go with Joe Abercrombie's. And it's got a classic recommendation to close this out. Classic recommendation would be The Count of Monte Cristo. If you haven't read it, I know it looks huge and intimidating when you see it physically in front of you, but everyone that I know who's read it seems to have really enjoyed the book and the story. We've done 5 tags. I'm a little worn out, but I think I can do a 6th, because the next one that I need to do is pretty short. For the Friends book tag, I was tagged by Mason in the Dark. I don't have any information about the original tag. If you know, please drop it in the comments along with your feedback down below. So these prompts spell out Friends, Friends, though the S is for tagging people, so we'll just do the friend part of the Friends book tag. F is for friendship. Choose a book with a strong friendship. I know I've mentioned it a little bit already in this video, but Lonesome Dove may be the best example of friendship in all of literature, with Woodrow Call and Augustus McCrae as Texas Rangers who bonded when they were young men, have stood by each other's side through so many adventures and really near-death experiences. It's great to see them as old men, getting along, well, picking at each other and that sort of thing. R is for real life. Choose a nonfiction book. The nonfiction books that I recommend the most are usually biographies or true crime. And for true crime, I think The Devil in the White City is an excellent book to read. I is for independent. Choose a book by an independently published author. I'm going to go with The Thing in the Woods by Matthew W. Quinn. I don't remember which indie press published his book, but I really enjoyed reading that one. E is for ending. Choose a book with an ending that made you want to scream. Alright, as much as I like Margaret Pinard, and as much as I loved her Remnants series, that third book, oh my gosh, those poor characters suffered and suffered. Margaret Pinard as a writer has this way of getting you to really like characters, and then she just destroys them. Oh, I encourage you to read the book and know why by the end of that, I was just furious about what happened to some of those characters. It's good literature, though. N is for new. Choose a new book. One of the most recent books that I really loved was Project Hail Mary by Andy Weir. Highly recommended. D is for dark. Choose a book with dark themes. You know, grimdark is so popular in fantasy today. I've already mentioned the Poppy War series, and I mentioned Joe Abercrombie's books. There's also dark academia, so I guess I'll mention Leigh Bardugo's modern urban fantasy that comes across as dark academia, Ninth House. It was an interesting, though frustrating read because of the way that the author manipulates time in the narration. Not telling the story in sequential order because she's purposely hiding things from you in the narration and tells things really out of order. There just seem to be these random cuts to different scenes of time, and you've got to figure out why they're relevant or why that they were mentioned and why other moments were omitted and you weren't told them. But in the end, I enjoyed it, and I want to read the sequel that I assume is forthcoming. Wow. Alright, I did it. That's 6 tags all at once. I hope I am able to edit this together quickly and get it out to you. I love tag videos. I hope you enjoyed listening to the answers. And I hope whichever of these tags you haven't already done, you'll get right on it and make some more tag videos yourself. Every day is a good day for a book talk. Peace.